when I see people cry while reading books, it makes me 10 times more intrigued. Just casually, I'm meeting Sarah A. Parker. This might sound a little bit like cheesy and obvious, but I really love words. Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. I don't really know what I'm going to call this video, but I just want to do book stuff with you. So in today's video, I want to read some books, obviously, and I also do actually have a couple of very exciting book events that I want to take you along with me in the next couple of days. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. We'll get more to the events when the time comes, but just as a little teaser for the future, I might be meeting Sarah A. Parker in a few days. Yes, the Sarah A. Parker, author of When the Moon Hatched and also very recently The Ballad of Falling Dragons. But we'll get to that when the day comes. For now, I do want to share with you what I'm currently reading. So I actually was having a little bit of a hard time deciding what I wanted to read next because my TBR is so stacked right now. It's one of those phases, you know, when you have so many exciting reads coming up and you're like, I have decision paralysis. I don't even know what I want to read at this point. So I did not know what to read. So I actually asked in the Patreon for some help. So out of the options of books that I was just completely torn about, the first option was The Young Will Remember by Eve J. Chung, which I've talked a lot about this as an anticipated read of mine. It was very recently featured in my 5-star predictions list video. It's a historical fiction that I think will just tear at all of my heartstrings. So that was definitely an option. Another option I was torn between was The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff, another very recently released book. This one also I feel like is gonna get me all up in the feels. And then also Into the Blue by Emma Brody, which is a book that I've been seeing everyone read, and I've actually seen a lot of people compare this to The Favorites but make it more emotional, and instead of skating we're doing like sketch comedy but about space, or like there's some sort of space-time continuum element in there. I don't know, but from what I've heard, it's apparently very emotional, and I've seen a lot of people just like cry while reading this. And when I see people cry while reading books, it makes me like 10 times more intrigued. So these three options were already like staring at me from my TBR card, and I was like, how am I going to choose what to read between the three of those? And then you know what happened yesterday? I received 2 e-arcs. Okay, one of them, Mark of the Warrior by Fonda Lee, which, if you guys don't know what that one is, it's the second book in the Breath marked duology by her. So the first book was Breath of the Dragon, which I read January 2025, and this is the conclusion to that duology. So I did get that e-arc, and then I got the new Anne Liang also as an e-arc. So it's called To Dream in Darkness, and I'm so excited about this one because you guys know I loved A Song to Drown Rivers so much, and I've been wanting her to get back into that genre because she writes a lot of YA contemporary romance as well, and I'm like, you know what, that's fun. I've read a bunch of her YA contemporaries and I'm like, yeah, it's great, but I think I'm just kind of over that right now. So I've been itching for her to write another more mythical, fantasy, historical type of a book, and this is exactly what that is. So it's definitely, yeah, kind of in the same subgenre as The Song to Drown Rivers, where it's based in mythology. But in this new one, I think we're focused on 2 gods. One is the god of healing and one is the god of death or something. And so obviously they're very naturally pitted against each other, but then a kingdom falls, and then I think the 2 of them need to learn to work with one another. It sounds like another very like yearning filled book, but this time with gods. And so I'm now chomping at the bit to read that too. So yeah, I put up a poll, and last night when I checked the poll, when it was time for me to pick up a new read, there was a tie between Mark of the Warrior by Fonda Lee and The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff. So I actually decided to pick up Mark of the Warrior by Fonda Lee first and then read The Burning Side after this one, because also very exciting news, the episode might already be up, but on the podcast we are interviewing Fonda Lee very, very soon, in a few days from the day I'm filming this reading vlog from today. We will be, interviewing Fonda Lee very soon. So I'm like, you know what? It would be really fun to read Mark of the Warrior before that interview. So that just gives me another thing to chat with her about when the time comes. I'm just still feeling so starstruck and just in disbelief about the fact that I am able to meet and talk to authors now with the podcast. Like, that's just so cool. But yeah, I decided to read Mark of the Warrior. All that to say, that was a really long ramble to tell you what I'm currently reading. So I do want to show you the gorgeous cover of Mark of the Warrior, but what happens sometimes is when you get an e-arc, the cover just looks like this. So I'll put the cover in editing on the screen, so that's just more pleasant and fun to look at. But yeah, this is the second book in the Breathmarked duology. It's a YA fantasy, which is really fun. It's written by Fonda Lee and Shannon Lee, and if you didn't know, fun fact, Shannon Lee is actually Bruce Lee's daughter. So obviously the story is very much centered around martial arts and combat and all of that, so it's really fun. I'll tell you the synopsis about the first book. So we're set in this world that's really cool because it's divided in two. There's a wall that runs in between. There's the east and there's the west, and both sides are really, really different in the way they view martial arts. So in the east, they're very much like fighting is only restricted to the top elite warriors. You're only allowed to learn how to fight if you're breathmarked and if you get recruited into this like elite military guardian academy kind of a thing. And in the west side of the world is very much the opposite. Fighting is very, you know, it's glorified, everyone loves it, there are big tournaments to win glory and everything. So very different sides. Our protagonist grows up in the east side where fighting is very limited and restricted, and he grows up with a twin, and his twin is actually breathmarked, but he is not. So while they're identical, while they have, you know, very similar features and everything, his twin has always been the one who's been a little bit more like naturally talented, a little bit more just everything comes easily to the twin. And at a young age, the twin was actually taken to start training to become a warrior because he is breathmarked. And in that whole traumatic incident that happened, their family also got separated because when the people came to take his twin away, they noticed that June, our main character, and his father were actually fighting, like training, practicing, and fighting illegally. And so they were banished to the west side. So since then, they've also been a family divided. June and his father have been living in the west, and his twin and their mother have been living in the east. Very different lives. And because of what happened to June and his family at a very young age, he's been working his entire life to kind of bring glory and honor back to his family. So in the west, the way he can do that is to practice training how to fight, become the best warrior, and to enter this competition, this tournament that takes place once every 6 years, where if you participate and win these like all these martial arts duels, you win the honor of becoming the guardian of the West, essentially. So that's what June is working towards at the beginning of the book, and then a lot happens. And so this is the second book. I remember after reading the first one, it was a while ago because it was January 2025, so it was like almost a year and a half ago. I remember the first book just being really fun to read. Fonda Lee herself is very great at writing martial arts scenes, like physical combat scenes, but her with Shannon Lee in collaboration obviously made martial arts and the fighting and dueling and everything a main focus of the book, and all of the action was written just so well. So the first book was really fun, and I remember at the end of the book thinking the second book is gonna be where all of the emotions hit just from seeing where the story is going. And I read, I don't know, like a chapter in bed last night, and I can already feel it. Like from the minute the prologue started, I was like, yeah, we're getting all of the emotions in this one. I just feel like there's a lot of family-centered stuff in this book, along with the fighting, obviously, which is really fun. There's, you know, June's whole goal in the first book was to get glory and honor back into his family, and I think there are some interesting things with making him a twin, but separating them from childhood and also making them very unbalanced. Their twin dynamic is really interesting to read, even though they've been separated and they don't actually like know each other, you know? You can still see how June is so deeply affected at the fact that his twin just exists in the world. So yeah, this is my current read. I'm gonna dive deeper into this one and just read more of it. Okay, I am just around the 30% mark of Mark of the Warrior. This is very fun so far. It is very fun. It's easier to read. It's definitely simpler to follow compared to something like Jade City, where that world, you know, it's an adult series. So obviously in that series, things are just like a lot more complex to follow. But in this duology, it's just fun. You know, it is really fun, but I'm finding so far that this is just a really, really great balance of adventuring, learning about the world and the politics and all of that. Physical combat, of course, but then also, yeah, with so many of these personal, emotional touches with family, with friends, with learning to trust people. And we have this really wonderful, like, enemies to friends situation going on here, which is just like making my heart feel really warm and fuzzy inside. And also we do get a good glimpse of like character struggles, personal struggles, and all of that. So yeah, I just think a really great balance of all you would ever want in a YA fantasy duology. There is actually also, I wouldn't even call it a romance, but kind of this little crush situation that's been happening over both of the books. And that crush situation you might be able to describe as like a little tiny bit of a love triangle. But while I just finished reading the Remnant Chronicles trilogy, right? You guys know that. And I was so annoyed at that love triangle, which is obviously a love triangle that was very much more prominent in the story. In this one, we get little like crumbs of a maybe love triangle, but actually what I'm liking about it is that we're seeing the love triangle not from the perspective of the character who, you know, the two people are fighting over, but we're seeing it from the perspective of a character who is one of the competitors. And I am just coming to the realization that maybe I prefer love triangles when it's done from that perspective. It's definitely just less annoying to follow, and also like definitely a very, 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 very small part of this book. Like when I say crumbs, I mean really just crumbs. So yeah, I am enjoying this so far. I'm just gonna plop down here and read a little bit more. I have actually been loving recently just hanging out on my bed more than I did before, and it's because of these really, really comfortable new sheets and duvet cover and pillowcases that I just got from Quince. And I do want to thank Quince for sponsoring this video. Quince, if you didn't know, is a one-stop shop for really, really high quality essential items across home goods, clothing, accessories, just all kinds of stuff. All of their products are actually such high quality and for very affordable prices as well, which I love because they do very purposefully work with top tier manufacturers, and they also work to cut out the middleman, so they are able to create the best products for you but without the price markup. They also only use premium fabrics and finishes, and they also, very importantly, make sure that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing purposes. So we love companies that do that and support that. But I did get this premium down comforter from them. I got the all season one. I have their organic cotton brushed duvet cover in this beautiful dusty olive color along with the matching pillowcases, and I will just say my sleep has been improved so greatly ever since I got this set to upgrade my bedding from Quince. I have recently been tracking my sleep quality, and literally the day, this was like a couple weeks ago, but the day that I changed my bed sheets to Quince materials, my sleep score was like 99%, and I'm like, that's the highest my sleep score has ever been. So I feel like it's something that seems obvious, but something that we might forget sometimes is that the quality of your bedding can really affect your sleep quality and therefore affect a lot of your day, you know, the waking hours of your life as well, because sleep is so important. So I am loving my new upgraded bed, and yeah, I'm just enjoying spending a lot more time in my bed because I just love the softness that is around me. You may or may not also be wondering why I look like I am matching with my bed right now. Just as a fun little side note, I am wearing Quince as well. So yeah, as I mentioned, Quince does span over a lot of great categories of essential items that you might want. So this shirt is the organic cotton micro rib cutaway tank, and I'm wearing their 100% European linen shorts as well. So I love Quince. I love their products across all categories. Would definitely recommend them for upgrading your home, your wardrobe. You can upgrade all of your cozy reading corners as well, all with these high-end essential items from Quince. So I definitely recommend them. Check them out. I will have a link in my description box below, or you can scan the QR code on screen for free shipping and also 365-day returns. Thank you so much again, Quince, for sponsoring this video. Let's get to reading. gonna take a little intermission from reading because I'm actually leaving the house today. I actually got invited by Kobo to this very exciting event. We're basically celebrating the book release called Clock In. It's by Emily the Recruiter. If you've seen her on like TikTok or Instagram or whatever, I think she really focuses on productivity and career success and all of that. So she's released a nonfiction book about that. And Kobo is just hosting this really fun event to celebrate that release, and they've invited me. So I'm going to go. I'm actually really excited because I've wanted a Kobo for so long, and you guys know I've had a Kindle for the longest time, and my husband actually has a Kobo, and I've been really jealous of his Kobo ever since he's gotten his, because there are just a lot more perks with a Kobo when you live in Canada, especially. I think like basically if you don't live in the US, Kobo's better because in a lot of other countries, including Canada, Kobo is actually the e-reader device that can connect to things like Libby, so you can get library ebooks. Like I can't load any library ebooks onto my Kindle, which is so annoying, and so I don't really use that library feature a lot, but I'm really excited to have a Kobo finally so I can use Libby and actually load ebooks from the library onto an e-reader, onto my Kobo that I'm about to get at this event. So I'm really excited about that. I'm getting a Kobo Libra Color, which is also really fun because I've never experienced the color e-ink. But yeah, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna take you guys along with me. Sometimes I get shy when I'm filming in public, but hopefully I will have the courage today. So I am very excited. Oh, also, on the way, I'm taking transit there, and on the way, I'm going to be listening to the Dungeon Anarchist's Cookbook. This is book 3 in Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I have decided. I know I was kind of like hesitant after reading the second book if I wanted to continue on to the third book because I still wasn't really like 100% loving it, but I was intrigued enough to keep going, and I do find audio is the best way to consume these books, which is like so unlike me to say because I'm always a physical reader over an audio reader any day, but this series is an exception to that rule for me because I just feel like the humor, you can kind of like pass along the humor more in audio, where when you're reading it, I just think like this isn't really funny. And also I find with a lot of the plot points that might feel repetitive or just like a little too much detail, all the lit RPG stuff essentially, I find that reading it can feel very cumbersome for me to read, and listening to it, you can just kind of like, this might sound a little bad, but I kind of skim over the repetitive parts, like the training parts, the lit RPG parts. I find that it's just a lot more palatable and like easier to just like casually listen to over focusing on eyeball reading it. This is the closest I'll ever get to actually like skim reading a book is these dungeon crawler books, just in certain parts, but I will say, I think you can see here, but I'm really close to finishing this third book. Actually, it says I only have about an hour left, so I'm actually going to be able to finish this book on the way, which is great. And I will say that this third book so far is probably the best so far. The first half of this third book was kind of, it felt kind of the same as the first 2 books, but once we hit the second half, we just opened up the world. We started to see a lot more of the politics and what was going on outside of the game, and I also think we're just opening up our network to a group of characters that is wider than just Carl and Princess Donut. And even though I was loving Carl and Princess Donut, and I was enjoying seeing their dynamic with each other grow, I think just introducing more kind of like main secondary characters and having them play a more prominent role than just like quick appearances, I think that's really helping the story and making everything just more exciting, because now we have more players in the mix. We have more dynamics between different members and characters and players in the mix, and that's just adding more intrigue to me. It's actually feeling more interesting to me at this point, and so I do think we're at this turning point where the series can kind of like kick off, like take off from here. I wasn't really believing it that it could happen after the first 2 books, but you guys were right. I think it is just really expanding from this point onwards. Fingers crossed it continues to go in that direction. But yeah, 1 more hour to listen to on Dungeon Crawler. I will listen to it while I'm on my way to the Kobo event, and we'll see how this evening goes. officially a Kobo owner. I've wanted a Kobo for so long. I was just mentioning to you guys before. So this is the Cobra Libra color. How cool. It also came with this stylus, which actually is making me want to get into annotating books because I've never been an annotator. You guys know me. I like to keep my books like pristine, clean, no cracked edges, no folded pages, no marks on the pages, but I do like the idea of annotating a book as you read it. So I feel like this stylus that came with my Kobo is going to be a game changer because you can use it to highlight things. You can use it to like just write little notes within the margins and stuff. And you can even change the color of your pen or your highlighter. Like you can highlight in pink, white, green, blue, any color you want. And I feel like this is just going to add a really fun touch to reading. So I did transfer my e-arc of Mark of the Warrior that I was reading on my Kindle now to my Kobo. I've synced it up, and so I'm gonna finish this read on my Kobo and I'm gonna try out annotating and like highlighting and just seeing how I like that experience. The event yesterday was also so fun. I saw a few kind of bookish friends in Toronto that I haven't seen in a long time, and it was fun running into them and hanging out with them. The Kobo office was so cool. They gave us a little rundown on the features of a Kobo and how to use it, and then Emily, the recruiter herself, was there and kind of walked us through a little bit of her book and a couple of little exercises in her book. It's called Clock In, and while I feel like a lot of her book's subject matter actually didn't apply to my life nowadays because her book is all about how to succeed in a corporate environment, how to further your career when you're working in corporate. A lot of that stuff definitely applied to me, I don't know, like a year ago, but now in this past year, since I guess like becoming my own boss in many ways, while all of that job hunting and how to thrive in a corporate environment doesn't apply to me today, I do feel like some of the takeaways that she was talking about work-life balance and kind of seeing what things you prioritize in your work life versus your personal life, I think some of that was insightful and honestly still got me thinking and still I think applied to my lifestyle today. So it was definitely a great event, and some of us actually went out and got gelato after, which was so delicious. Didn't vlog that because it was more just like friend bonding time, but it was really fun. And yeah, I did learn some fun tips and tricks of the Kobo, including, did you know, I'm gonna drop my microphone so I can demonstrate. Like what? Basically, you can adjust the brightness of this thing just from like one smooth swipe up the side of the Kobo. That's so cool. What else happened? This is a really long update. I'm so sorry. I also finished the Dungeon Anarchist cookbook while I was on my way to the Kobo event. I'm actually gonna end up rating that also a 3.75. I've rated every single Dungeon Crawler book so far a 3.75. And although the third book was my favorite so far, so I think like going back, thinking about the Dungeon Crawler series as a whole, if I were to go back, I would honestly probably edit my ratings. So the first Dungeon Crawler is probably more of just a solid 3-star. The second book is probably a 3.5 and this third book is a 3.75. But the good news is about that is that the ratings are going up as the series is going along, which is great. I do think just like a lot of the things that I mentioned, the second half went more into expanding the world and finding the purpose of why these things are happening. And I think with our characters just expanding their circles and having more characters in the mix, we get a lot of more layered nuance with our character growth and seeing them needing to face difficult decisions and needing to take like more people's lives into account. I feel like there's just a bigger sense of responsibility, and I think that's what I enjoyed in the second half of Dungeon Crawler 3. So that's a good sign. Moving on to Dungeon Crawler 4, which, what is it called? I can never remember the titles of these Dungeon Crawler books, but I actually did start listening to Dungeon Crawler 4 also on the way to the event. I listened to it for about 10 minutes because there were about 10 minutes left of my commute, so I just like nibbled into Dungeon Crawler 4 a little bit. So we'll see how that one goes. Enough yapping. I have about 25% left of Mark of the Warrior, so I'm gonna finish reading this on my Kobo and I'm gonna try annotating and see how that works for me. You guys, this might sound a little bit like cheesy and obvious, but I really love words. And I do feel like the act of using the stylus to annotate the words as I was reading them, like annotate specific words, obviously ones that stood out to me, just honestly gave me more of appreciation for words again. It's been so long since I've highlighted something. And I think the act of just when something pops up to you, just highlight it. I think just that act really brought the words back up to the forefront. So honestly, that was a really wonderful experience reading the last bit of this on my new Kobo. And overall, I did really enjoy Mark of the Warrior. I think like Fonda Lee, I mean, I obviously have to give flowers to Shannon Lee as well as the co-writer of this book, but I will say, like, obviously I've read more Fonda Lee than Shannon Lee, and I love how Fonda, like, always just paces a book and structures a book. Everything she writes, every book that she has written has surprised me in terms of plot structure and when things happen. She definitely doesn't follow your standard template. You know, when you think about a YA book, you kind of tend to know when things are going to get intense, when certain moments are going to happen, and things are predictable. And I will say, although like the very end of this, like the overall picture of it, like you knew the direction it was going the entire time, you knew the message it was trying to say the entire time, the way that things happened, the pace at which they happened, and like the sections of the book in which certain things happened were so unpredictable. And I love that Fonda can just stay so creative in that way and not just follow templates, like story structure templates. She definitely goes on her own path when she writes her books and plots everything out. So that was done really well in here. And yeah, in the end, I just really love all the twin stuff in this. Honestly, that was my highlight of this book in particular, was just showing the tensions between these twins and the relationship of like the give and take and how that manifests in this magical way, in this magical world. I think I am gonna rate this a 4-star overall. Definitely really, really enjoyable, an amazing way to end this duology. I think the only thing that I would want more of is honestly just more in this book. I think it was so well paced, you know, everything was always constantly moving. It was really easy and quick to read, but I honestly wanted this to be longer. And I think I would have loved to see even more of the twins, even more of their moments, especially with their resolution and how things tied together. I feel like I would have liked that moment specifically to be drawn out just a little bit longer, but overall, really great read. Would highly recommend this duology. I just looked it up on Goodreads because, like, you know, I'm about to log my review and everything on there, but I realized that this is a really underrated, underread duology. Like, the first book only has around 4,000 ratings on Goodreads, which I think is so low, seeing as this is written, like, co-written by Fonda Lee and Shannon Lee, and it only has that many ratings. More people need to read this duology, I feel like. But that is Mark of the Warrior. I'm actually, not right now, but probably later tonight, I'm gonna start The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff. I'm really excited to dive into this one, getting more into a contemporary literary fiction vibe. So I'm gonna start that later tonight. I will update you tomorrow how that goes probably. And also tomorrow, just casually, I'm meeting Sarah A. Parker. Frenzy, which is the primarily fantasy imprint of HarperCollins in Canada, is hosting an intimate mix and mingle with Sarah A. Parker, whatever that means, because Sarah A. Parker is coming to Toronto for like a public general book tour, but also since she's here, HarperCollins and Frenzy decided to host this kind of more intimate private event and invited, I don't know how many people, but invited me to it. So I'm gonna go tomorrow, meet Sarah A. Parker. I'm gonna pick up Ballad of Falling Dragons because I don't have it yet. I'm gonna get that signed. I'm gonna get When the Moon Hatched signed. And I guess I'm just gonna like hang out with Sarah A. Parker tomorrow. So I'm definitely gonna have to bring you along to that event too and show you how that goes and what happens over there. But for now, I'm gonna do a little bit of editing and work to finish out the day, and I'm gonna start The Burning Side tonight. Dive into Ballad, is there a line, a sentence, or a moment that won't make sense to me now out of context, but I'll get it when I get to that part in the book?
There is a line that won't make sense to you the first time.
Okay.
But if you did happen to go back and read the second time, you would understand. And it is a really, really well hidden Easter egg that nobody, not even anybody in my better reading group, has picked up on yet.
Wait, can we hear the line? Or is there a spoiler in the line?
No, there's not. I will find it. Hang on. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to find the page and I'm going to count the line and I'm going to let you know what line it's on.
Okay, I'm not looking.
Don't look. No, don't look. Don't mind me. Interim.
We're still finding it.
Okay, so it's page 380 and it is 7 lines up from the bottom.
Okay, I can't wait. And one more question. If you were to bond with a dragon, what type of dragon would you bond with?
It would definitely be a moon plume, but I would probably get chomped trying to get one, let's be honest.
That's fair. I would choose a moon plume too, for the record.
Good morning. Oh my goodness. I actually had so fun yesterday evening at the Sarah A. Parker event. It was really intimate, which I think is really cool. A lot of the times, we'll go to these, oh hi Bobs. We'll go to these author events like the In Conversation with book tour events, and those are so much fun because you get to hear, the moderator digging a little deeper into the author's brain, and you get to see their process while writing the book and kind of their intentions for including different things. But with last night's event, it wasn't like a book talk with a moderator and like a structured conversation or anything. It was literally just a hangout. There were, I think, around 12 of us that were invited, and then it was just us, Sarah A. Parker, and her husband, and we were just able to literally hang out for 2-ish hours, and it was just really cool. It's always so wonderful getting to know authors and just kind of realizing they're also just normal people, because I feel like when we read books and we see what these authors are putting down on a page and telling us through the page, they just they almost turn into not even human beings, I feel like it's definitely a form of a parasocial relationship when you read a lot of books from one author and just kind of feel like you know them through their words, when in fact you don't even know them at all as human beings. But then when you actually see them in person and realize they're human beings in person, it's so cool. But yeah, Sarah was wonderful. I feel like she's so down to earth. She's so just real and genuine, and it really seemed like she wanted to be there and hang out with us. It definitely didn't feel like we were just a bunch of fangirls meeting a wonderful author, even though we were. It just didn't feel that way because she just made everyone feel so welcome. You could tell she truly, genuinely cared about getting to know you, engaging in conversation, and her husband also was really wonderful. First of all, he's really leaning into the con beggar look, I feel like, but he's definitely started to just embrace the fact that he is Sarah A. Parker's real life con, and it's so funny. But he's also you could tell he's so supportive of her work. He actually mentioned that he cried multiple times while reading The Ballad of Falling Dragons because there were just moments in it that got him really deeply emotionally. But I did get my old indie copy of When the Moon Hatched signed. There she is, nice and signed in there. And I also obviously picked up, finally, my copy of The Ballad of Falling Dragons, and I can't wait to dive into this book. I think I might actually just pick this up and read this after I'm done the burning side. But I got this signed as well, and we were all able to take little Polaroids with Sarah as well. So that was just amazing. I'm just still so in awe at the fact that I'm being invited to events like this. It's so cool. And I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? Endlessly so grateful for opportunities like this. Anyways, we can talk about the burning side though, because I am about 100 pages in, I think just under 100 pages in. And if you've ever watched the show This Is Us, this book is really, really giving me those vibes. I think just from reading the synopsis, I knew this was gonna give This Is Us vibes because it has a lot of similar elements with the house fire, obviously, with a parent that is being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and also following those 3 generations of a family. But upon getting deeper into this book and actually starting to read it, there are a lot of additional elements that kind of remind me of This Is Us as well. Kind of the idea of marrying into and integrating into a family that has a very different cultural, financial background from your bringing up. We're definitely exploring some of that in the story as well. I just think Sarah Damoff as an author really makes things personal and really gets deep into people and the intricacies of what a person is, because she does give you details. And I'm always in awe of how many details she can give us and all the intricacies of a person she can give us, because her books are not very long and she captures so much in so few words. But there are certain things little elements, little things that our characters will notice, a tile on the floor or something that you walk across every single day, and it's something you might not notice every single day. Little things like that are sometimes brought up to the forefront and then repeated as elements throughout the story that just, when they come up again in the future, they seem so insignificant, but then all of a sudden that tile is so impactful that when it brings it all back around, it just hits so hard emotionally. I don't know if anything I just said made sense. I think my brain just went around in circles and I was speaking a little faster than the speed that my brain was functioning, but I hope I got that point across. It made sense in my brain. I don't know if it made sense coming out of my mouth, but that's just what makes Sarah Damoff's stories feel so actually genuinely real, is that, yeah, these little mundane intricacies of life will be brought up, but not in like an annoying, like tedious, like why are we mentioning the floor tiles kind of a thing. It's done in a way where you get the perfect balance of it, so it doesn't feel like too much detail, but you're also like, you know, every single detail is going to have value, is going to be worthwhile, is going to mean something in the story, and everything is so just intentionally brought up and mentioned. Yeah, this is just doing generational story done right, you know, like seeing how tight-knit a family can be, but at the same time, the person who is closest to you in life like might still have so many secrets and so many things that they're keeping from you, not necessarily intentionally with like bad purposes or anything, but you never really know what's going on in someone else's brain and their heart, and you might be really close to them and you might have an intuition and you might be able to like kind of see what the other person is thinking, but you never 100% fully know. And I think that's really captured well in this family too. And it's all just like imperfect family love. You know, like you can tell that these characters have respect for one another, truly love one another, but their relationships are so imperfect, and I love that. It doesn't feel picture perfect. It doesn't feel boring. Our characters are flawed, and I am finding myself getting annoyed at some of the characters at times, but that's just kind of what makes her stories that much more beautiful. So needless to say, I am really loving this. I am feeling very deeply connected to these characters, and I'm gonna continue reading it. Has to be a 5-star. I think it does. I think this was even better than The Bright Years, which was her debut novel and a book that I really, really loved. But I do think that this one just, I don't know, it felt more intricate, it felt more nuanced and layered with all the generations and how they tied in. I think we just got a lot more depth from all of the characters, where in The Bright Years, it was a wonderful story, but we were really focusing on fewer characters, I feel like, and here all of our characters felt a lot more fleshed out, and it was just beautiful seeing how everyone's stories connected with one another. Oh, this was really good. Truly, if you love the show This Is Us, read this book, because it does very similar things where it ties things from your past, brings them into your present. There's a lot of beautiful parallels in that way, and the storytelling feels very much that style too. And the thing is, like, when I read a book like this, you know, I'm like, yeah, I've seen a lot of these themes in other books before, or other shows, other forms of media, like This Is Us. So I'm like, none of what we explored in this book is necessarily new in terms of like the concept, the idea, the things I'm learning, but it's the way it gets told to you. It's the storytelling, it is the intricacies of like how Sarah Damoff builds these characters and decides the moments when to reveal certain things to you. That's where the genius of it is. And it's like, sure, I've read books about Alzheimer's. I've read books about fires and losing a house and like all of the memories that come along with that. I've read books with couples that are having troubles on the brink of divorce, but they have kids to think about, and like they're trying to stay strong for their kids and figuring out what's going to be best for their family. Like none of that stuff is necessarily like an entire new concept, but it's just told so well, and all the details make these characters stand out. And while reading this book, I just kept, you know, thinking about what exactly holds holds memories for a person. Like, is it a house? Is it objects? Is it the people who are around in your life? Is it just in your head? Like, what truly really holds memories? And like, you guys know I love thinking about memory and all that stuff. So I think just the way that this book triggered my mind to think more about that, like, so good. I feel like this book also just made you think of those moments where, as an adult, I can definitely relate to this, but those moments where you start seeing your parents as real human beings, like fully fleshed human beings with their own lives, and realizing that they're not just alive to be your mom and dad. Like, they're not just mom and dad. They're full people in themselves with full stories, full emotions, full struggles, full happy moments too. And that's something else I also really love thinking about. But yeah, this is a 5-star for me. I'm so happy about it. This was so good. Anyways, I am going to end this vlog here. I'm going to leave you guys here for now. I hope you enjoyed reading with me, coming to some really, really fun events with me over these past few days. It's been a really eventful couple of days for me, and we've done a lot of exciting bookish things. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. I definitely did. So if you did like this one, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know what you're currently reading. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!